Chapter 407 Conversation with the Beast God. Huo crossed his legs and sat down by the lakeside. He retrieved some food from his storage-type soul tool and began to eat as images flashed by in his mind, one after another. His emotions wouldn't calm down for a very long time. He didn't know whether he could return after entering the Great Douluo forest this time, but there were some things he couldn't leave behind. The thing he wanted to do most right now was visit the Clear Sky Sect and see Donga. His eyes became gentle and tender when he thought about Donga, but the thoughts in his heart became increasingly determined and resolute. He couldn't stay here forever. Him being imprisoned here indefinitely was no different from death, but he couldn't leave now. He had to complete his experiments with spirits and resolve the conflict between Shrek City and the Great Douluo forest before he could leave. After that happened, he could leave with no worries at all. He had thought about many things on the road back and had made a plan for his future. Huo was clear that some people from the academy had definitely seen his army of undead. That was an army of 100,000 undead. It was impossible that nobody saw it. Perhaps nobody was thinking about that for now, but what about when everyone calmed down? His buddies from the Tang Sect would know what was going on, and the Academy could guess as well. Summoning undead was an ability that belonged to evil soul masters. He had made that decision with no second thoughts because he had thought it was the right thing to do, but he also understood that summoning an army of undead as large as that meant that he could no longer hide his secret of having a third martial soul, which held his necromancy. He wanted to leave some things behind for Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect before he left. Afterwards, he had so many other things to do. He wanted to look for Donga, and there was something else he had always wanted to do. His emotions and his state of mind were unstable, but his formidable spiritual power allowed him to plan carefully and rationally. He had his own plans on how he would leave this place, and just like he had said to the 5 savage beasts, there were only eternal benefits in this world. Under the pretext of having sufficient benefits, leaving this place wasn't impossible. Huo sat down with his legs crossed and began channeling his soul power to aid his recovery. He had faced down 5 great savage beasts, and the pressure that he had to take from DT and above Shrek City before this had exhausted much of his energy. Even his body was a little hurt, but his formidable life energy meant these wounds didn't cause him any real damage. Soul power circulated in his body as a rose gold vertical eye gradually emerged behind his back. Light that resembled patterns of the sun shimmered around this vertical eye, and everything seemed very peculiar as gentle spiritual undulations expanded outward from Huo's body. The water of life not too far from him rippled faintly because of the spiritual undulations coming from his body. Huo could feel that the strength from his life bulb was very greedy, and it wanted to absorb the water of life's life energy, but he forcibly suppressed it. Of course, he wanted to boost his own life energy, but this water of life was part of the Great Douluo forest's core, and it contained immense life energy, far larger in volume than his life guardian blade and his life gold. If he dared to absorb the water of life's life energy at a time like this, he would be shaking the Great Douluo forest at its very roots. DT would never let him get away with that if he did so. After Huo had left the evil demon forest, he had hurriedly absorbed his 7th soul ring and immediately traveled to the Heavenly Soul Empire. He was smart enough not to inform the body sect directly. Instead, he went to look for the Heavenly Soul Empire's royalty, Princess Wayna, and returned to Shrek City as soon as possible after passing that information to her. He had used his full strength to unleash his necromantic spell and summoned his army of undead afterwards. Only now did he take the time to finally stop and catch his breath. At the same time, he felt the changes in his body after he became a soul sage. Huo felt as if he were weak, like a lamb to the slaughter, when he was up against someone like DT, who was stronger than even ultimate Douluo. But he was calm now, and focused on sensing the transformations in his body. Only now could he see what had actually happened to him. The soul power flowing through his body had become a gentle purplish gold color. He understood that his soul power hadn't evolved by itself. Instead, his soul power had changed qualitatively after Kua had offered herself to him. At the same time, Huo could clearly feel that after he fused with Kua's strength after her sacrifice, his physique had become many times stronger than before, especially in terms of strength. His strength had grown exponentially. Kua was the 3-eyed golden lion, and she was thick with blood descended from the golden dragon. Otherwise, she couldn't have pretended that she possessed a golden dragon as her martial soul. Right now, her golden dragon's strength had merged completely with Huo's soul power, and had become part of him. Compared to that, his soul power's evolution was secondary, and the changes to his body had undoubtedly built a stable foundation for Huo's future progress. Soul power wasn't the only thing restraining soul masters after they became soul Douluo. Their bodies were limiting factors, as well. Overly immense soul power demanded more and more from a soul master's body. Therefore, many soul Douluo repressed their soul power growth rate while they used all sorts of methods to train their physiques, and only when their bodies attained higher levels of strength did they dare to try and raise their soul power to another level. Once soul masters became titled Douluo, they would be faced with such a situation at almost every rank of soul power. This also meant that towards the final stages of a soul master's progress, a soul master's body became one of the most important factors that limited their development. Huo possessed immense life energy bestowed upon him by his life gold. That, in addition to the strength of the golden dragon that Wang Kua had offered him, meant he wouldn't have to be concerned about his body, at least before he became a transcendent Douluo. There was no need to mention his spiritual power's qualitative changes. He had relied on his fusion with Wang Kua and even killed a 100,000-year evil eye tyrant, even though his elements crushing superiority had determined the outcome of battle. Huo's spiritual power was so frighteningly strong that it was also a substantial reason for his victory. He had absorbed 2 soul rings within a short period of time, and his strength had grown to the point where he had become one of the stronger individuals on the continent. Furthermore, he could feel that as he became stronger, he had managed to consolidate and understand much more about his personal abilities during the 3 months he had spent in closed-door cultivation. Following the passage of time, these understandings would help him grow even faster. Donga was in a deep slumber, and Kua had offered herself to him, and both incidents broke his heart. But he was a lot stronger than others of his age, and after ultimate martial souls broke through 7 rings, their initial limitations would swiftly disappear. His talents and his potential would be gradually revealed in the future. Huo briefly sensed the transformations in his body before he slowly entered meditation. He was swiftly recovering his physical and mental strength amid the dense life energy released by the water of life. One day passed before he woke up from his meditation. He opened his eyes and felt invigorated and fully energetic. He took a deep breath, and thick life energy flooded in through his nose. He felt so comfortable that he almost moaned. Huo began to understand why DT could metamorphose 8 times and become the king of the savage beasts with more than 800,000 years of cultivation. Perhaps the golden-eyed black dragon king hadn't been alive for 800,000 years, but he resided in a place where life energy was so dense, and he still had the auspicious emperor beast and the sky dream ice worm, among other external forces, amplifying him. It would be strange if he didn't evolve. A faint fragrance wafted from in front of him. Huo lowered his head subconsciously and saw several green fruits stacked up in front of him. These green fruits were spherical, and there were fine and compact golden dots on their surface. Thick aromas lingered around them, and they were very alluring. Huo came from Shrek Academy, and he was very knowledgeable. He was momentarily astonished before he immediately identified these fruits. These were golden jade fruits, considered very rare and exotic. Golden jade fruits were natural treasures that boosted a soul master's physique and soul power. They were indeed treasures, as they were very beneficial and nutritious for soul masters. There was no doubt that DT had ordered some soul bees to send these fruits to him. Huo wasn't courteous at all as he picked one up and gobbled it up in a few bites. The fruit wasn't very delectable. Its flesh was chewy, it oozed with juice, and it wasn't sweet. Instead, it tasted bitter. But Huo didn't dare to waste even one bit of something this good, and he even ate the fruit's outer skin. He wasn't greedy for more, and stopped after ingesting one. The effects of a golden jade fruit were very potent, and he wouldn't be able to absorb more even if he ate them. One was enough for now. After a few moments, gentle and warm currents began to spread from his gut to every corner of his body. The soul power inside his dantian became a lot more lively, and Huo didn't have to activate it as they followed naturally and circulated along the path designated by his mysterious heaven technique. Huo had 7 soul rings, and his golden jade fruit's boosting effects weren't that impressive. However, the fruit was very nutritious, and adding in his meditation during the past day, his mind and body were instantly raised to their peak condition. Huo took a step out as a layer of faint golden light glowed on him. He slowly punched out with his fist, and his body instantly became brilliantly golden. Spiritual power and soul power immediately fused together, and that rose gold vertical eye naturally appeared behind him. He had simply concentrated for this punch, but Huo discovered to his surprise that this fist's strength was comparable to the force of his fist of remembrance. Golden light radiated and didn't dissipate, as if a golden whirlpool was consuming everything within 10 meters of his fist. The seamless fusion between soul power and spiritual power produced an all-new ability. Hero Yuao heaved a sigh of admiration inside. Just as teacher said back then, this is the feeling of a perfect sovereign's descent, where spiritual power and soul power are seamlessly integrated. He didn't stop as he continued to think. He used Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track and the Tang Sect's most basic fist techniques at the same time. His movements were very slow. He paused almost after every punch, and he focused on understanding and sensing the changes in his soul power and spiritual power. Hero Yuao obtained better understandings of his own abilities after every movement, but he was very careful throughout the entire process. He relied on his formidable spiritual power to skillfully control his attacking force so that he didn't hurt the plants around him. His movements slowly began to speed up, but the golden colors released from each punch became smaller and smaller. Initially, the golden colors stretched to more than 10 meters, but they were gradually withdrawn to about 7 to 8 meters, and then to 5 to 6 meters. By the time his body became like an illusion moving at high speed, the radiance on his fists had vanished completely, and even the undulations from his soul power and spiritual power were gone. A shadow began to stretch out behind his back, but that shadow wasn't his afterimage. Instead, it was the goddess of light. The goddess of light moved in the same way that he did. However, she was reflected from his body, so the two of them seemed like they were moving together, as if they were dancing on the lakeside. Hero Yuao practiced this set of fist techniques for 2 hours. When he withdrew his fists and stood up straight, the goddess of light appeared right in front of him and didn't dissipate as she did the exact same thing. Dense golden light gradually rose around Hero Yuao and transformed into spirals above his head as they expanded out from him, one after another. The past 2 hours had been very qualitatively transformative for Hero Yuao. He had completely absorbed the golden jade fruit's effects, and he had used the past 2 hours to finally streamline and understand the changes to his body that his 2 new soul rings had brought about, truly grasping the strength of being a soul sage. Impressive fist techniques. A plain voice rang out, and Hero Yuao snapped his head around and gazed into the distance. He was the only person by the lakeside before this, but there was someone else there at this moment. Wasn't that the beast god Ditian, dressed in black? Ditian was in his human form. He stared at Hero Yuao, and his eyes flowed with faint approval. Hero Yuao bowed subtly in his direction and said, "You flatter me. I'm like the light of a firefly in front of you, elder." Ditian smiled plainly. He seemed just like a warm elderly man at this moment as he said, "No, you are outstanding enough. You're probably not even 20 years old, or a little older than 20, at most. It's no wonder the auspicious emperor beast gave you her approval. You possess many special qualities that other humans don't. You can still keep your composure in a dangerous place like this, and you can achieve 100% concentration. You can already be considered very outstanding because of this." Hero Yuao said nothing. He didn't know how to continue the beast god's conversation, and the set of fist techniques that he had just displayed just happened because he felt like it. Training by yourself is so uninteresting. Why don't I accompany you? Ditian's next sentence rendered Hero Yuao speechless with slack eyes and widened jaws. The beast god had more than 800,000 years of cultivation. Did he really want to fight Hero Yuao? Elder, you. Hero Yuao stared lifelessly at Ditian. Ditian smiled faintly and said, "We're just having a practice fight. Just try your best." Ditian made his move before his words finished registering in Hero Yuao's mind, and he didn't give Yuao time to think about it at all. He took a step forward. His hands were still behind his back as he charged toward Hero Yuao. Hero Yuao immediately felt a frightening and stifling pressure slam him in the face from the moment Ditian made his move. That feeling resembled the same feeling he had felt in the Yin-Yang Love Querying Valley, when he was completely crushed by that projection. When he was crushed back then, his body had crumbled into dust, and nothing was left. However, Hero Yuao wasn't like he was back then. He didn't use a single soul skill against Ditian's charge, because he didn't have the time to activate his soul skills. He stood in place as he circled his hands before him with his palms facing out, and slowly pushed out. Ditian was as fast as lightning, while Hero Yuao felt like a doddering old man. However, because his movement was so slow, his palms pushed out at the same moment Ditian arrived in front of him. In that moment, Ditian discovered to his surprise that Hero Yuao had become illusory to his senses, as if he had integrated with nature around him. Hero Yuao's life energy and even his fortune was one with nature. Bam! Hero Yuao was sent hurtling backward, and landed on the floor after flying more than 10 meters out. He stumbled as he hit the ground, and seemed like he was in disarray, but he used Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track and dispelled the impact bit by bit. Ditian stood where he was and didn't pursue Hero Yuao. He tilted his head at Hero Yuao and said, "Now I believe that the auspicious Emperor Beast has given all her destiny and fortune to you. It's a pity that you're not a soul beast, and you can't bless the great Stardow Forest like she did." Hero Yuao stopped moving as well. Ditian clearly hadn't used his full strength, but even so, he had felt as if his spirit and his blood were about to be forced out of his body from the impact when Ditian collided with him. It had felt like a mountain had crashed into him. "Thank you for showing mercy, elder," Hero Yuao said as he bowed towards Ditian. Ditian frowned and said, "You humans have so many formalities." Hero Yuao's answer was neither haughty or humble. This is human culture that we have inherited over the generations. Filial piety, respect for one's seniors, loyalty, politeness, honor and shame. Those things form the foundations of human culture. Ditian said plainly, "I don't know about all that. However, we're just starting. Try your best." His body quivered as he spoke, and he charged towards Hero Yuao once more. He moved a little faster this time. Hero Yuao didn't dare to be careless. He understood from his previous experience that the golden-eyed Black Dragon King wouldn't deal him a fatal blow, and his footwork changed subtly as he took 2 quick steps out and adjusted his position. His soul power circulated smoothly and at his whim within him, and a vertical air flickered behind his back as he merged all the forces in his body once more. His eyes turned rose gold in color, and compared to the previous round, he managed to enter his peak condition within a much shorter period of time this time around. Bam! They clashed again, and Hero Yuao stumbled backwards. He was pushed more than 10 steps backwards before he could regain his balance. However, his situation was a lot better compared to when he was sent hurtling backwards before. Ditian's eyes flowed with surprise, but he said nothing as he charged at Hero Yuao once more in a flash. Hero Yuao naturally didn't dare to relax one bit. He was starting to readjust and harmonize himself when he was thrown backwards, and he made sure that his mind was calm so that everything in his body could come together as one. Hero Yuao could feel that Ditian's strength was stronger in their second clash, but his own force had become a lot stronger as well. Therefore, his defense was a lot better than during their first collision. More importantly, that feeling where his spirit was almost shaken out of his body was gone, and his spiritual sea was unnaturally stable. A rose gold vertical air hovered above his spiritual sea. The Sky Dream Iceworm's original body was hovering in his spiritual sea. His golden eyes were filled with anger, and dense spiritual power flooded out from him and integrated into Hero Yuao's spiritual sea. However, a bluish green figure appeared in front of him at the same time. This figure raised her hand and knocked him on the head as she shook her head at him. The Sky Dream Iceworm seemed a little depressed as he stared at the charming yet dissatisfied face in front of him. He reluctantly stopped his actions and withdrew his spiritual undulations. Hero Yuao could feel everything that was going on clearly, but he couldn't be bothered with thinking about them. Something else happened when he clashed with Ditian for the third time. Right before his palms pressed against Ditian's frame, his palms suddenly arched inwards as a gentle suction force appeared in his palms. Sucking Ditian in with his current strength was probably futile, like an insect trying to move a tree. But Ditian was momentarily startled when the gentle suction force appeared because he didn't expect Hero Yuao to do such a thing. Ditian instinctively controlled his own power, and his forward impact naturally weakened a little. Bam! Hero Yuao only took 5 steps back this time. Furthermore, his yielding hand suddenly pushed out as he stumbled backwards, and a sphere of light flew out and slammed into Ditian, who was hot on his heels. Ditian's movements didn't stop. However, this was the first time Hero Yuao had retaliated. The golden light vanished into thin air in front of Ditian. Hero Yuao and Ditian clashed once more, but Hero Yuao was sent flying through the air because he was preoccupied with retaliation. Hero Yuao felt his chest tighten, but he didn't feel discouraged at all. He was very determined, and he had already gone through so many of life's tribulations. Flying a distance through the air from the collision wasn't all that bad. At least, he was able to put some distance between Ditian and himself. A longing look flowed from his eyes, and he seemed to turn transparent all over when he withdrew his right fist. Wang Dong's projection appeared quietly behind him. However, she seemed different from before. This time, Wang Dong's projection was colorful, as if she had actually descended beside Hero Hua Yuao. She was smiling beautifully, and her charming eyes were tinged with bashfulness as her long and pinkish blue hair draped over her shoulders. She twirled her hair with her fingers playfully, and there was even a subtle sassiness at the corner of her lips. Yes, this was the most beautiful Wang Donga in Hua Yuao's heart. Donga was behind him, and she was also in his heart. The fist of remembrance. Dietian could have slammed into Hua Yuao one more time before he could unleash his fist of remembrance, but Dietian deliberately slowed down this time. He allowed Hua Yuao to raise his fist to its highest possible level. Dietian watched that longing in Hua Yuao's eyes and that dash of anxiety at the corner of his mouth, and then studied the enchanting and elegant young girl behind his back. Even the golden-eyed Black Dragon King was full of admiration at the sight. Has this fellow raised human fighting techniques to such a high level? Not even many transcendent Douluo can reach a level of integration and fusion like this, can they? Dietian no longer held his hands behind his back anymore. He reached out with his left hand and opened his palm to block Hua Yuao's fist. He didn't do so because his body wasn't strong enough to take this punch. Rather, he did so out of respect. Not a single sound was produced in this clash. Dietian's smooth white palm grabbed Hua Yuao's fist, which was glistening golden. However, Dietian's expression changed drastically in the next moment, and he swiftly released the young man's palm, as if he had grabbed hot charcoal. Hua Yuao's fist of remembrance reached in deep just like that and slammed against Dietian's chest. Golden light gathered, and there seemed to be a giant and formless hand with an iron grip on Dietian's body, such that he had no choice but to take a hit from this fist. The beast god's body quivered as dark golden light flickered once on his body. The space around him that had collapsed was instantly shattered, and he transformed into a dark golden ray and withdrew far into the distance. Hua Yuao's punch didn't hit anything in the end. If a human or a soul beast had been watching this fight, they would probably have been so astonished that their eyeballs would have popped out. Who was Dietian? He was the strongest savage beast in the entire continent. He was the beast god of the great Stardo forest. Yet he was forced by a soul sage to the point where he had no choice but to evade his attack. If this was spread to the outside world, Hua Yuao would become an instant celebrity. Dietian waved his left hand, and frightening soul power undulations appeared in midair. An enormous pitch black dragon claw appeared out of nowhere and grasped Hua Yuao, sealing all the soul power that he wanted to activate in the next moment. Dietian forcibly pulled him out from his longing emotions. Hua Yuao woke up completely as he sensed all that tremendous squeezing pressure around him. He gazed at Dietian and couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Dietian himself seemed a little dazed at this moment. His expression was a little pale, but his eyes flowed with a dash of tenderness. However, his expression swiftly returned to normal, and he didn't seem very friendly when he looked at Hua Yuao once more. Your spiritual power is stronger than I had imagined. This strength isn't something the auspicious beast has bestowed upon you. Concrete material spiritual power. Hua Yuao was also a little dazed. He didn't really understand why Dietian was so afraid to interact with his fist of remembrance. With Dietian's strength, not even the Hadong palm can hurt him even a little bit, let alone the fist of remembrance. But why is his expression so strange? Dietian said plainly, you can train by yourself. However, you'll have to make the necessary preparations for what you have to do 2 days from now. With that, Dietian vanished into thin air beside the lake. Just like that, Hua Yuao didn't move an inch as he watched Dietian disappear, and he began to contemplate. What can it be that makes even the beast god afraid? It can't be the strength of my fist of remembrance. Even if my spiritual power were twice as strong, I couldn't possibly hurt him, since he's not afraid of my attacking strength. Then, emotions. Yes, he's afraid of the longing feelings within my fist of remembrance. My soul power is like an ant compared to the beast god. However, the gap between our spiritual powers isn't that great. When I'm longing for Donga, my spiritual power is raised to its highest possible level, to the point where I am unable to control it properly. This longing feeling is completely presented in my fist of remembrance, and it must be that emotion that affected the beast god. It must be that emotion that triggered his memories, and everything that he misses so much, so that he evaded my fist in the end. Hua Yuao was very intelligent. He understood the process after contemplating for just a short period of time. Who says soul beasts don't have feelings? Seems like the beast god has feelings and emotions deep in his heart. Hua Yuao's thoughts stopped here, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His thoughts were full of wonderful goodness, as he thought about the joy of being together with Donga. The greatest reason why his fist of remembrance was so powerful was because he would be immersed in his emotions. Back then, he had used this strength to defeat 2 evil soul Douluo, and this was the very reason why he could accomplish that feat. However, just as Shu Sanchi had said to him, he couldn't rely on his 3 ultimate Hadong skills in the future. Otherwise, once Wang Donga woke up and returned to his embrace, his cultivation would be greatly weakened. At the very least, his fighting strength would be greatly reduced. Dietian was gone, but Hua Yuao didn't stop cultivating. He rarely had the opportunity to be in such a quiet place that was so rich with life energy at the same time. In addition to the golden jade fruit's nutrition, he seemed to have returned to the days when he had just entered Shrek Academy with Wang Donga, when he didn't sleep or rest so that he could meditate more. Hua Yuao discovered as he meditated that no matter what he did, Donga's figure kept surfacing in his mind. He was in a bit of a daze. Yes. Ever since I left the Duke's mansion, I've been together with Donga, and even though we've been separated from time to time, we were still thinking about each other and longing for each other. Don't worry, Donga, I'll definitely look for you when I settle some things. He became more immersed in his meditation as thoughts spun through his mind. He felt and sensed the fusion between his soul power and his spiritual power, and every soul skill that he had absorbed. Typical soul masters never had enough soul skills to use. They had to decide whether they needed control type or assault type soul skills when choosing soul rings, whether they needed soul skills for single targets or an area of effect. Questions like those always bugged him, but Hua Yuao was in the opposite situation. He just had too many soul skills. He was born with twin martial souls, and this meant he innately had twice as many soul skills as normal soul masters did. Furthermore, he had 200,000-year soul rings among his many soul rings, and he had another rose gold soul ring that belonged to Kua, which was equivalent to a 100,000-year soul ring. He had another 1,000,000-year soul ring that gave him 4 soul skills, and he had several soul bones as well. Hua Yuao wasn't afraid of not having enough soul skills. Instead, there were too many of too many different kinds, and he always had certain problems choosing which soul skills to use. This was also what Hua Yuao had to iron out at the moment. His 3 ultimate Hadong skills side effects were too great, so he had to use them as seldom as he could afford to in the future. Under such a situation, choosing soul skills and how he was going to fight became Hua Yuao's most important matter at the moment. Hua Yuao didn't want to add any soul rings to his second martial soul, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, at least for the moment, because there was no need for him to increase his number of soul rings. Obtaining more soul rings would boost his physique, but he didn't have to worry about that after assimilating the golden dragon's strength. He would rather work hard to improve his spirit eyes, and only when he became a titled Douluo would he try his best to add higher level soul rings to his Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. From his perspective, not even 10,000-year soul rings meant much to him. Only 100,000-year soul rings could satisfy his needs. Hua Yuao had no idea how many ranks above 70 his soul power was at the moment. After he absorbed his 7th soul ring, because that soul ring belonged to a 100,000-year evil eye tyrant, his soul power rose by quite a bit. He estimated his soul power to be at about rank 72, more or less. He wasn't even 20 years old, and yet his soul power was extraordinary. This also meant that if the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament was happening right now, he would still be qualified to participate in the tournament. He was a soul sage with an ultimate martial soul. He also had twin martial souls. He could probably easily sweep most teams by himself, or perhaps every single team. 2 days passed as he meditated. Even though time was very fleeting for soul masters and their cultivation, these 2 days had been very beneficial for Hua Yuao. He was starting to find the path that belonged to him. Dietian didn't reappear over these past 2 days, but nobody knew if that was because his emotions had been stimulated by Hua Yuao's fist of remembrance. Dietian. A respectful call rang out, and Hua Yuao was jolted awake from his meditation. He noticed the Emerald Swan wasn't far from where he was when he raised his head. He had no idea when she had arrived. She lives up to her name as one of the 10 great savage beasts. I didn't notice her even with the sensitivity of my spiritual power. Bai Ji was still relatively friendly towards Hua Yuao, and she nodded subtly in his direction. Hua Yuao hurriedly got to his feet and returned her greeting. A black shadow drifted in from the center of the water of life. Dietian's appearance hadn't changed since they'd last met, and he asked plainly, "Is everything prepared?" Bai Ji nodded and said, "The people from Shrek have arrived. However, we have to hurry. I'm afraid our kinsmen won't be able to control themselves." "All right, let's go." Dietian waved his hand, and Hua Yuao immediately felt the space around him go dark. He was already soaring through the sky when he regained his senses. Probably only these few savage beasts dared to fly across the great Stardo forest, and only the beast god dared to fly so outrageously. There was a patch of dark clouds beneath Tian's feet. By G, who are Yuao? And he was standing on these dark clouds as they soared towards the edge of the forest. They seemed like they were moving very slowly, but they were actually flying at lightning speed. Huro Yuao was a little worried when Bai Ji mentioned that she was afraid her kinsmen couldn't control themselves. Huro Yuao understood what that meant. The Great Stardo Forest's soul beasts had just fought a violent battle against Shrek City, and both sides had suffered heavy losses. Under such circumstances, both parties definitely hated each other to the core. Shrek Academy's people were over at Great Stardo Forest Edge, and it was possible that the soul beasts there would attack the humans because they couldn't control their impulses. Tian was flying far too quickly. At least, he was faster than any soul tool that Huro Yuao could think of. The dark clouds began to descend while these random thoughts were still spinning his head as cursing sounds and the howls of soul beasts rang out one after another in his ear. Dull dragon roar echoed through the skies, and the sky darkened completely. The situation was a little messy a second ago, but it calmed down in the next moment. The dark clouds landed on the ground, and Tian appeared in front of the soul beasts with an ice-cold expression on his face. He turned around and faced the masses of soul beasts being led by the Bear Lord, the Myriad Demon King, and the Scarlet King. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.